Alrighty, speaking of changing it up, I've changed my mind like 9 times tonight what I'm doing. So, thank you for saying that I do something different. This was... Oh, Unknown Error, you dick.
That's a great name for a poem.
Oh yeah, no, it's all about computers and fuck-up affair. Alright, here we go. This was a speech I wrote for the Workers Int'l League a couple months ago. I've toned her down to 7 minutes. Wish me luck. It is May 10th, 1980. There's 10 scientists all looking at each other wondering, huh, should we leave Mount St. Helens? It's gonna erupt pretty soon, we're not really sure, but shit's moving, man, I don't know. Well, they're all looking around and they decide, you know, maybe we should leave. 8 days later, Mount St. Helens erupts and blows up. They all would have died. This is a kind of an interpretation of a frog fable I heard on a documentary for this thing, where if you take a frog, throw him into a pot of boiling hot water, that frog is smart enough in order to bounce out, run like hell because, oh my god, this water is hot. But you take that same frog, put it into a pot of lukewarm water and slowly turn the temperature up, it'll actually kill itself waiting for the water to get warm because it can't tell the difference between minute number 1 and minute number 2. But you slowly change it over time and it won't know the difference. Take for instance as another example, if you take 1,000 apples and stack them all together, and how far is that? That is about 1,000 apples long. Tomorrow you take another 1,000 apples, this time you grab Granny Smith's as opposed to the Honeycrisp you had the day before. How long is that? Oh, it's still 1,000 apples, you say. But actually these two distances are completely different, even though you would not have known it between person number 1 and person number 2. And all of a sudden Noah's Ark ends up not being able to fit quite 2 animals per species, and now we don't have unicorns, which is really a shame. This kind of leads to ideological paradoxes, such as torture in the name of freedom, selling your daughter for $1,000 US money, or gays who can now serve openly in the army, but will this actually help women be raped less than the current 29% from fellow soldiers, or will gay rape just increase? Quote, "The steep dive in Bhutan's gross national happiness, which is an index of how well its people are doing, independent of what they earn, coincided with the importation of satellite television by the new Oxford-educated king of Bhutan. Television's images of impossible lifestyles, body shapes, clothes, and accessories have resulted in not only a deep resentment, but a crime wave, as young people steal in order to afford the trinkets sold on Rupert Murdoch's Star Network. TV presents a world unattainable to the majority of people, both in the United States and Bhutan, and in seeking to recover their happiness, the youth have gone shoplifting." Side note, I was researching buying a foreclosed home for a commune, and I would probably say 80% of all those foreclosures had satellite dishes. Just throwing it out there. Linguistics and communications, because words that we use have different meanings between different people, even though we all use the exact same words. See, murmurs and grunts, these coordinated interpretations, speech evolving into social orders, commonality yields common goals, and civilization is grown from spoken, then later written word. Such as government press releases stating collateral damage versus civilian casualties, because when you don't keep a body count, you can't exactly tell if any were civilian or not. Or shall we see the truth reflected in American media's actions as opposed to them actually reporting on the truth? And another quote. "One effective repetition and parallelism in William Blake's London is to problematize the meaning of words. Words such as weakness and chartered are foregrounded in such a way as to cause the reader to query their singleness of meaning. The poem exposes paradoxes and contradictions residing in official meanings of words. According to the Russian theorist Mikhail Bakhtin, all words are inherently double-voiced or double-valued. He calls this multi-accentuality. But the tendency in ordinary speech, and especially in official discourse, is to use words as if they only had one meaning, to suppress critical and paradoxical views in favor of the meaning which is convenient for the ideology of the current discourse." And another quote, this is my favorite, Milton Friedman, fuck you. "Anyone who is persuaded in one evening, or even 10 one-hour evenings, is not really persuaded. He can be converted by the next person of opposite views with whom he spends an evening. The only person who can truly persuade you is yourself. You must turn the issues over in your mind at leisure. Consider the many arguments, let them simmer, and after a long time, turn your preferences into your convictions. I won't go into some of the BS. Sorry, you guys. All right. One of my favorites is Alexis de Tocqueville, a crazy little Frenchman that came to the U.S. in mid-1800s who said, "One main advantage with American politics is term limits. The effect being people hired to fill a position, to have a job, to operate under the guidelines of the law, and to be a civil servant. By having more eyes on what is going on, you will ultimately have faster progress because there is minimal change at the guard, as they must follow law and not personal politics." Take, for instance, the poor El Salvadorians who now have to deal with Canadian Pacific dumping 2,000 pounds of cyanide and over 10,000 gallons of fresh water into the ground per day for 5 years just so people can have a job. And the entire state gets 1% of royalty fee off of everything that they take out, which is just too bad. Everybody likes gold, bling and such. There's something called sub-optimization. Because in order for profits to be high, corporations organize workers, raw materials, capital equipment, and rent so that their costs are as low as possible. Let's take the hypothetical example of McDonald's and follow its route it takes to calculate those costs. As an institution with a mission to return profits, it's keen to squeeze down what it pays for the things that go into making hamburgers, everything from beef to labor to rent to safety testing. The more it can drive down costs below those of its competitors, the more money it stands to make. If McDonald's is able to cause the emission of pollutants like CO2 without having to pay for it, then the costs of the firm are not the same as the broader social cost. In modern economics, the term used for this is called externalities. These are the costs that somehow slip through the net of prices. And Adam Smith, a favorite. And the ordinary tone of expense seems everywhere to be regulated, not so much according to the real ability of spending as to the supposed facility of getting money to spend. It is thus that the single advantage which the monopoly procures with single order of men is in many ways different, and is in many different ways hurtful to the general interest of the country. To found such a great empire for the sole purpose of raising up a people of customers may at first appear a project fit only for a nation of shopkeepers. It is, however, a project altogether unfit for a nation of shopkeepers, but extremely fit for a nation whose government is influenced by shopkeepers. Such statesmen, and such statesmen only, are capable of fancying that they will find some advantage in employing the blood and treasure of their fellow citizens to maintain such an empire. This was a big speech. I had a lot of fun with this. And I will leave you on this personal favorite, Enrico Malatesta, an anarchist who was actually voted into power in Spain in the late 1800s. Humanity is the sum total of human units, and everyone who defends in himself those rights which he recognizes in others defends them to the advantage of all. Altruism cannot go beyond loving others as one loves oneself, otherwise it ceases to become a practical reality and becomes a misty idea which may attract some minds inclined to mysticism, but can certainly not become a moral law to be lived up to. The object of the ideally moral man is that all men may have as little suffering and as much joy as possible. This came from Violence as a Social Factor in 1895. My name is Johnny Five. I thank you all for your time.